Find your exclusive home for Eagles football. Sports Radio 94 WIP.
All right, Buffalo's on the clock, baby. We're back. Let's get this thing going. Welcome back in, everybody. Elliot Shorr-Parks, Rob Ellis hanging with you on this Friday as we are into rounds 2 and 3. Now, again, point out the Eagles, at least right now, don't have a third-round pick. They have 2 in the second, 50 and 53. And we're starting off at 33, Elliot, with 7 minutes between each pick. It doesn't mean it's going to be the full 7, but that's where we are. So figure 8, 30-ish.
I think Howie owes it to us
to move up,
to make the pick before the Phillies.
Agreed.
You know,
Howie,
give us some
do
time
us a
to
solid.
Exactly. Think about us here. WIP always thinks about you. Think about us.
Don't make the pick at 9:06 right as Murph gets on the air.
Exactly. Yeah.
Dan, don't even.
And he takes Spencer Radler.
Exactly.
if he makes the pick after 9:06, I think he's making one that they know is not going to go over well.
That's a good point. Bury the lead on a Friday night in the Phillies game. Yes, that makes all the
Jalen
sense.
2.0.
They what was it they did during opening day? They made what was the move they made on opening day?
Opening day.
Oh, they traded Hassan.
Yeah, they traded Hassan Reddick.
Yeah,
like
talking Phillies.
like 2 innings into the game.
Oh,
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, during Phillies opening day, the Eagles traded Hassan Reddick.
I was at the game with it was Ike, James, Jack, Joe, and we're all sitting there like, wow, timing on this one. We're all, none of us are on the air.
WIP didn't take a call on it for 4 hours.
That's right. Unbelievable. Yeah. So you want to hop in 215-592-9494. A lot of discussion about the first round pick, Quinyon Mitchell, and then what they may do here, what the biggest need is. And Elliot, where do you, again, what's your gut telling you at 50?
The thing I heard for 3 months is that they want to go offensive line. So I know they didn't last night. Clearly they didn't like these guys as much as I thought. I would be really surprised if they still don't go offensive line tonight. Obviously the board has to break their way, but I think it's the biggest need. If you just want to talk talent in the draft, not need, just talent. I think receiver is the best players are receivers. But let's talk about linebacker for a second, because Edgerrin Cooper and Peyton Wilson, two guys that they're my two top linebackers in the draft. Some people like Colston out of Michigan. I'm not as big on him, but Peyton Wilson, I think could come. Now he's 24.
A lot of injuries,
but
he's a monster though.
I think he could come here and be, I'll just say like a top 5 player on the defense. I think he would be right away making a big impact.
I love the guy.
I 100% agree.
Okay. So he can flat out play. And here's the thing you have to measure. Can I get 5 good years out of him?
Honestly,
and by the time he's 30, okay.
Get 4 good years, second round pick. If you get 3 great years, I agree. At 22, it was, they weren't going to do that. So Peyton Wilson, I would love it either 50 or 53. Edgerrin Cooper, I really like as well. Great athlete. He reminds me a lot of Devin White. And I mean that as both a positive and a negative. Devin White was an outstanding linebacker in this league for a lot of years, and I think could be again next year. But I think it's a little duplicating. Maybe you get him in here. He learns from Devin White. Devin White's only on a 1-year deal. But I think Peyton Wilson's a little more NFL ready than Cooper is.
All right, let's go Dave in Marlton. Dave, you're on 94 WIP. What's up, Dave?
Not much. How you doing?
What's up, Dave?
So I'm going after Elliot.
All right,
Elliot,
let's hear it.
He's ready.
Everybody loves this pick that they took last night.
Well, I don't love it.
I know you don't.
Yeah.
But why?
Because I liked other cornerbacks better. I liked Kool-Aid better. I liked Terrion Arnold better. I like Nate Wiggins better.
Do they have the same characteristics of this man that says, you know what, I'm going to do this, I'm going to stay here, and I'm going to be a man instead of worrying about the money?
Well, to be fair, I'm not saying this at all to disparage Quinyon Mitchell. We have no idea about the characters of these other guys. Like, we know more about Quinyon Mitchell's character now. Could they like Quinyon better as a person? It's certainly possible, but I haven't heard anything about Nate Wiggins or Terrion Arnold or Kool-Aid. I mean, Kool-Aid was one of the main personalities at Alabama, one of the main leaders. So from a personality standpoint, I don't think any of them had any red flags.
Well, do you think Nick Fangio had anything to do with this?
Vic Fangio?
Yeah.
I would hope so.
Yeah,
I would hope so.
Who we were going to pick?
Yeah, I think he probably did have a say in scouting the player, saying how he'd use them, all those things.
Exactly. And this young man is saying, I'm going to be here for the long run.
Right. Well, let me ask you, Dave, why do you like Quinyon Mitchell more than the other corners? Because they were all on the board.
First of all, he's the fastest one.
He is. Although I believe Nate Wiggins.
Wiggins is a little faster.
Yeah, Wiggins ran a faster.
Wiggins is light though.
Yep. Yeah, he's very undersized.
Yeah, but can he
Wiggins is not a good
squat
tackler.
500 pounds.
I don't know if
You
he
know-
can squat 500 pounds.
I mean, I know I can.
I think, yeah, exactly. I think the Eagles have enough players that can squat 500.
The Squat
plus on the
Brothers
team.
can take
yeah.
up enough for
Yeah.
Yeah,
everybody else.
exactly. Now he's part of the Squat Brothers. So it's just going to be a great fix
All right.
Yeah.
for the team.
All right, Dave, you got it, man. Appreciate it. Look, I think that they definitely went more. I'm not saying there isn't substance with Quinyon, but there's more sizzle as opposed to an O lineman, at least.
Oh, for sure. I think if there's an offensive lineman, once again, probably everyone disagrees with me tonight because I'll be saying I love the pick and people wouldn't. But yeah, this is definitely a more exciting pick. You touched on it in the first segment. He brought it up. I do think the story about him staying at the school is worth telling because in all the things I've learned about him since the draft, this really has stuck with me. So goes to Toledo as a freshman because no other places gave him a chance because he had grade issues. So
And he admitted that.
he said it
yeah,
last night. He had issues with his grades.
Yep.
He couldn't go different places. Toledo gives him a chance. Sits out his first year. So that's why he's there 5 years. After he kind of becomes a better player, big schools start calling. Alabama, NIL money. He stays in school because Toledo gave him the chance and, was there for him when he was kind of down, quote unquote. Last night when he gets drafted, there's a video of all of his teammates watching the draft somewhere. I really do think this is a high character guy. Now, that doesn't mean Kool-Aid and those guys aren't, but I think that they're definitely getting a potential locker room plus in this guy.
I agree with you. And that's not a little thing when you consider what happened last year.
And what we talked about last segment. Exactly.
Yeah, let's go to my guy, Tommy G. Tommy G from CBS 3, one of the great photogs in the business. Tommy G, what's up, my man?
Gentlemen, what's happening?
All good, Tom. All good.
What up, Tommy?
Understood. So it's funny. So this is going to go somewhere. Used to have a pool, and I had a problem with my pool, and I said to the people, I said, hey, I got a problem with my pool. She goes, well, who closed it? I said, I closed the pool. And then she goes, well, look, dude. She goes, you shoot Super Bowls. I close pools. Howie picks players, and we should sit back and kind of trust it. Now, listen, Elliot, I'm with you, man. I feel like there are so many different factors. Obviously, we talk about it, all of this ad nauseum, but there's so many factors in a guy that can fit in and play here with whether it be the players, whether it be away from Ohio, whether it be, maybe he just doesn't like Philly.
Right.
It could be a multitude of things. Right. So, I don't know the first thing about anything, but I feel like when I hear,
yeah, I mean, Tommy, real quick. So we talked about AJ Brown's contract. When we talk about contracts, I think Howie deserves you know what? This guy knows what he's doing and I don't. When it comes to trade value and those things, I think that. When it comes to drafting in the 20s, I do not believe Howie deserves a benefit of the doubt where I can just sit back and go, you know what? He knows it and I don't. Obviously, he has more information than I do. He talks to these guys 100%. But Howie's track record of drafting in the 20s has been bad. I mean, he basically acknowledged that last night. So I think to question this pick is fair.
Well, yeah, I agreed. Absolutely agreed. And you know what? Any guy with a nickname like Kool-Aid's got to be decent, right?
You don't got to tell me. Yeah.
I mean, I'm Jelly Roll, Kool-Aid. I can't even figure it
out. Hey,
maybe
he'll be there tonight at 50.
Oh, dude, be sweet.
But that,
let's go.
Yeah.
The city would lose its mind.
Yeah.
Another real quick little thing. We were talking about Sixers and Joel. I'm going to tell you something. I swear to God, my ex-wife had given birth to our first child. She had gotten Bell's palsy.
Oh, man.
Must have been from like the
contractions or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I not sure what it was. Right. So what happened was it happens really quick, and not only it's a mental thing. And what Joel said was really telling. It's a pretty embarrassing situation when you think about us. We don't want to go outside if our hair is a little messed up. This dude's face is halfway like.
Not me. I don't care about my hair.
That's a lie.
Yeah.
You definitely got a good head of lettuce.
Appreciate it.
I just feel like this guy, I can't, it's so hard.
No,
to
Tom,
imagine.
you remember the play. So now it makes sense. So you think back, do you remember when he tweaked the knee in game one?
Yeah. And his eye was.
Yeah. And he's down on the ground and they had that
term.
above, the ceiling shot.
Yeah.
And you're like, dude, what is going on here?
What is happening?
So it went way beyond just, hey, he's a little freaked out because the knee's killing him. Like legitimately has like a disease.
Well,
going on.
and Tommy, to your point, Joel throughout his career is incredibly tough. But I also think there's been clear times in his career where you can tell he is bothered. He doesn't hide his emotion well. I'm
Yeah,
sure the
he's
knee is a
definitely
big
aware
deal.
of
Obviously, the knee bothers him. I'll be curious with you guys. I think there's nothing that bothers me more than when it's something with your face, like your eyes
Yes.
bothering
Yes.
you, or like
You're constantly
exactly
touching
like,
it.
you bite your lip hard or something, right?
That's what
So
you look at in the mirror every day. And
exactly.
my man's looking at his face, going like, "Oh my god!" Like,
So to
I
go
literally
drop
remember-
50 in front of millions of people in a must-win game while like your face is halfway, not to make light of it,
Yeah.
but he's dealing with something. I think it was an incredibly mentally strong moment for him.
I think he can also, Tom and Elliot, put to bed some of this soft talk.
Yeah.
Like I get it. And he can be frustrating at times. And he was doing some things early in the game where you're like, dude, what are you doing? You get kicked out. The series is over. But to be out there doing what he's doing in the condition that he's in, like, this is tough guy stuff. I don't care what anybody says.
Well, I don't think I know he gets called soft. I actually think his issue has been he cares too much, not to sound corny, but when he goes into these big games and it doesn't go well, he gets so worked up about it. What I liked about last night was he came out and his emotion was funneled in a very different way. It wasn't in a, kind of go inside of himself and shut the door. He was much more, like he's hitting guys, which is not great, clearly, but it was an aggressive type of emotion.
Yeah, I think too, when you make the prediction like he did, not to say that you weren't going to give all effort anyway, but I think there's just so much more on the line. He knows time's dwindling.
Yeah, he called his shot.
He did. Yeah.
I said to my son at the beginning of the playoff series when they beat Miami, I said, "I'm going to tell you something. He's got a different look in his eye," and I'm not doing it for a pun. I swear to God,
no.
This was like right around the Heat game is when he got it.
Right.
But he wasn't the guy with his like, throwing his arms up for the crowd to get loud or whatever. And he had the new do too going on.
Yep.
So my man's let himself go because his hair was looking
all right.
ragged. Long
You know what? He has to keep whatever he's got going on right now after that performance last
I'm
night.
down. I'm down. Let's get in. Let's drop 35. I'll be happy.
Tom, good hearing from you, brother. Keep up the good work at
boy.
CBS3. All right, brother. That's Tommy G. Tommy's great. You're in the locker room a lot.
Good guy.
Tommy's the best.
I mean, he complimented my hair.
Good point. Yeah, you were done after that.
Yeah, I was in love from that moment on.
The one other thing I've always said about Embiid is, like, I don't think it's soft. Frankly, I just don't think his body can handle the frame.
I agree. It's an unfortunate reality.
Yeah.
It's not about him as a person. It's not about when it takes him a while to get in shape. It's not because he's not working out or eating right. He's a 300 whatever he is pound man that's 7 feet that runs a ton, like 82 nights a year or whatever it is. So yeah, I agree. I think an unfortunate thing about this playoff run is it feels like it's kind of starting to dwindle down for Embiid. So games like last night, like, they really got to make most of the time while they can.
And my takeaway from that, look, unbelievable performance, all those kind of things. And it was good to see Oubre and Campaign step up. But my question is, like, let's think about it from this perspective, Elliot. Let's say he gets 35, which is still an unbelievable game.
Yeah.
They probably lose.
Yeah.
Like,
yep.
So how does that bode for the rest of the series? Like, Embiid has to go that nuts for them to win?
So I feel differently about that. I think through 3 games, they've been the better team. Now, their style of winning, to your point, is hard because it's so dependent on 2 guys. But what's been most encouraging for me is going into the playoffs, I didn't know what I was going to get from Maxey or Embiid. Embiid, obviously, because of the playoff history. Maxey, because we just never seen him have to be the guy.
Yeah.
They've both been awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Maxey's been unbelievable. Embiid, obviously, after last night, has been amazing. You could argue they've been the 2 best players in the Eastern Conference in the playoffs through 3 games. I mean, it's short list at the very least. So, yeah, it's a tough way to win, but it feels good to believe that they can keep doing it because you have that confidence in Embiid and Maxey.
Yeah, I mean, it's so weird the way sports work sometimes. Like, if all of that stuff doesn't go down at the end of game 2, doesn't Embiid get kicked out of the game for the Mitchell Robinson thing last night early?
He, in my opinion, should have been kicked out of the game. If someone did that to Embiid, if Mitchell did that to
Let's say
Embiid,
that was B-ball Paul.
Exactly. Yeah. Now
Let's say it was the regular season.
Right.
He's done.
Yeah.
Like, literally, star player playoff is the only scenario that's only a flagrant.
I think you could argue that's going to end up being a massive turning point one way or the other.
Either the Knicks come out Sunday out of their mind,
right?
Or
if a month from now they've gone on a run, like that was the moment. Because if he gets kicked out, they don't win that game.
They're down
series.
3-0. Yeah.
It ends Sunday.
Instead, he stays in. I do think the fear of getting kicked out calmed him down a little bit from being so like out of control.
Yep.
And he has arguably the best game I've ever seen him play.
Here's where I'll give Nick Nurse credit too. he played him with 3 at the end of that second quarter when it could have really gotten out of
100%,
control, and I know they trailed at the half, but it was, whatever it was. It wasn't a lot.
Yeah.
And then he comes out and he and Maxey but just go nuts in that third quarter.
To your point about him scoring 50 and then like maybe if he only scores 35, they lose. Nurse is probably sitting there like, what other choice do I have?
No, none. And
like,
he played it perfectly.
Yeah.
He had to.
So real quick, the draft has started. Keon Coleman, the receiver out of Florida State. I don't think he was an Eagles guy, but if I think they're looking for a receiver tonight, he is one of the best ones. Yeah, Wheels. Yep, big catch radius are showing right now. I believe did he go to the Bills? I'm reading that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So
he was like the 4-2 guy, right? At
Yep.
the combine.
Yeah. Oh no, that's Xavier Worthy.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
But his time was good too.
Yeah. But to pivot back to the Sixers, Nick Nurse.
Patriots are on the clock, by the way.
Patriots, yeah.
Yep.
Nick Nurse, I think, compared to last year's with Doc, and I think Doc got a little overly criticized, but regardless, to go from game 1 where the Sixers were unable to grab an offensive rebound to, I believe, getting more in game 2 than the Knicks, and then basically breaking even with them last night.
They out-rebounded them slightly, but yeah.
Yeah.
Sixers did.
It's not only, look, the players deserve credit, but I think that Nick Nurse fixed a major problem in series. You did not really see that often from Doc.
I agree. You feel much better going into the game, whatever, and then in game that the proper adjustments are going to be made.
Yes,
this coach, like 100%. All right, so we got a couple now. It's was there a Buffalo? The Chargers are on the clock now. Was there a little deal?
Friday night, let's get weird. It looks like a trade has already happened. The Patriots were on the clock.
Yeah, Patriots dropped down to the 5th pick in the second round.
Okay.
And the Chargers move up to the second.
We'll see who for you. I mean, the Chargers, what did they do night 1? Oh, they took Latham.
Joe Alt.
Joe Alt, you're right.
Yeah,
Joe Alt.
The offensive tackle from Notre Dame.
So, I mean, defensive tackle is a possibility here.
They need receivers.
Receivers for sure. I'll be curious to see if the run on receivers begins here. Because, again, like I said, I do believe the receiving core or the receiving group is the strongest one going into this draft. One more thing about last night. My favorite pick of the draft, Xavier Worthy to the Chiefs.
Oh, yeah.
You just know he's going to go there and be awesome.
Well, and also with the backdrop of at least 5 games for Rashee Rice, maybe 8, maybe longer.
Yeah, I mean, Xavier Worthy, you can't say he's Tyreek Hill because Tyreek's good at a lot of things besides being fast. But we have the blueprint of how that will work for him.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing about the draft, too, and I'll tie the Eagles in with this. Where a player goes has so much to do with how good they are as opposed to their talent. Talent matters, but Xavier Worthy has such a better chance of succeeding in Kansas City than Malik Neighbors does with the Giants.
Totally.
No, the Giants, bad head coach, bad quarterback. Xavier Worthy has a chance to make way more money. I know, obviously, the rookie deals will be different. I do think, and I'm curious your perspective on this, do you think the Eagles are a place where rookies have an advantage in succeeding with their career?
On the offensive side, yes.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I think so. I think that they're over the years, it's been a great place going back to Andy, et cetera. I think it was with Doug. I think it is with Nick. Yeah, I do think offensively, for sure that's the case. 100%. So, all right, the Chargers pick is in. And again, what Jim Harbaugh likes to do, he's a trenches guy. We know he likes to run, but they lost Keenan Allen and they lost Mike Williams.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that they probably go the receiver route.
So one receiver that's left, I mean, there's a bunch I like, but Mitchell out of Texas.
Yes.
I think this guy, he was like number 2 on my big board. I think he has number 1 receiver potential. When I watched him, it reminded me a lot of a combination of CeeDee Lamb and Devontae.
Okay.
Great along the sideline, great route runner. I think he'd be great with the Eagles. He's probably not the speed guy you want as at number 3, but for the Chargers, I think it would be a really good pick.
All right. It looks like it's Ladd McConkey.
Okay.
Very good slot receiver out of Georgia.
I was not as big on him. Again, if your main projection is being the slot, like with the Eagles, if they were to take a receiver, I think you need to walk the line of can play outside if Devontae and AJ go down,
right? But
also, play in the slot when they're healthy. But Ladd McConkey certainly fits that bill of being able to come in and start on the slot right away.
Yeah. No, it's
4.39 40.
Yeah, it's a little bit better than I thought.
Yeah,
for him. But yeah, so he ends up going there. So the Cardinals are now on the clock. So we're at 35.
Jonathan Gannon.
Yeah, the Ganwagon.
Yes.
We're at 35 right now. Again, the Eagles are 50 and 53, but it's moving pretty quick so far.
Yeah.
So
I mean, at this rate, Howie's going to, we'll have time to talk about the pick.
Thank you, Howie. Let's go to David in North Philly. David, you're on 94 to BIP.
Hey, what's up, fellas?
Yo, David.
What's up, David?
All right. So the draft fell for them. I mean, you didn't have to trade up, and you had your pick of whatever cornerback you wanted. They made their pick. So we'll be able to look over the next 2 to 3 years, see the corners that went after them, see if they made the right selection.
For sure. I mean, Howie put his neck on the line there.
He did.
Yeah, it'll be to your point, Dave. I think it's a correct one. We'll be tracking the careers of Nate Wiggins, Kool-Aid. I know he's not drafted yet, but those guys, yeah.
Well, Wiggins was the one that was small, like 5'9" or something.
He's skinny. He's not super short.
Yeah, but he played more press than anybody else. I think he's a better press man corner. And I will say the receivers are getting smaller around the NFL. There's not a ton of 6'4" guys anymore.
McConkey's a good example.
But the thing is, what's the guy? Justin Jefferson. I mean, AJ Brown. Like, you look around, Mike Evans. These guys are like all world. The one thing about the Eagles that's weird, especially with the corners. They get the Brandon Boykins in the fourth. They get those slot guys. They haven't got the 10-year veteran out of there, but they just haven't been able to get the 6'6" since you got to go all the way back, basically Lito and Sheldon. That's where they've been just.
Those guys are hard to find.
Yeah.
The really good size guys. Yeah.
You got to draft them high. That's the problem. They haven't been drafting first round corners, and the second round one where that's your Sidney Jones and that's the Rasul Douglas. And Rasul's weird. Like, he's a starter, but
it took him a while. Like,
he's turned into a good player.
Yeah. I really don't think Schwartz ever gave him a proper chance.
Agreed.
And then he finally found himself later. It did take him a minute here.
He's still with Green Bay, or did he move from Green Bay now?
I think he's with Buffalo.
He was
he was a
traded
free
during the
agent this
season.
offseason. Did he? But he was with Buffalo last year.
Yep.
Okay. Another question. Like, I don't watch college sports, but they were talking about this being like one of the legacy drafts just because of the sheer number of second and third generation.
Marvin Harrison Jr., et cetera. Yep.
Well, where's T.O.'s son is
Tyreek Owens. Yeah.
He's in the draft. Wow.
Yeah,
okay. Wow.
He may not get drafted.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, he's not. Okay. Him and T.O.'s son and Jerry Rice's son also.
Correct. Brendan Rice, who finished his career at USC.
And I like him as a player for the Eagles. I believe they had him in for a top 30 visit. He's someone that I think has deceiving speed. Like, he can be your slot receiver guy. And to no surprise, with your dad being Jerry Rice, he comes in the NFL. I mean, he's a great route runner. He knows how to attack a zone, where to sit in it. So I think I would really like him as a pick.
I definitely would too. Number one, I'd love just to get obviously his father's going to be around, and I would love for our receivers, you get, again, at a certain point, again, I know that the pressure, you get like the all-world guy. Like, it's not just about talent, it's the work ethic. Like, sure, you can be bigger, stronger, faster than Michael Jordan, but do you have the killer? But if you can just sit there, I think it was an ESPN thing where they showed Jerry his off-season run, and he would take receivers out on this stuff.
That hill, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, just to see that level of work ethic, oh my gosh. I mean, T.O., he's in the Adonis himself. Like, that would just be interesting just to have that type of work ethic around.
I think, and David, good hearing from you, man. I wouldn't get too nuts about T.O.'s kid, but no. I mean, it's.
Do you think T.O. wants his kid to come to the Eagles? I mean, it's a whole new
he's buddy with Howard now. He seems to have made up with the city.
Now.
Yeah, they're pals. He's all good.
To keep it with the father-son thing, if you're Brendan Rice, do you want Jerry coming and talking to the team?
So I was thinking about this because
he's probably used to it. But
ever since he called up and he was talking about all the legacy guys, I'm like, Marvin Harrison went last night. Do you think, generally speaking, in sports, it's an advantage or disadvantage to have your dad be this megastar?
I think it's a massive advantage.
It's just genetics.
Genetically, yes.
Well, just the doors it opens for you.
And certainly the doors it opens for you, but I guess when you're getting picked, the expectations around you.
But here's
you're not getting picked. If
you're I know. If you're Bronny James,
that's
it's so tough.
I get where you're coming from. But here's what I would say, Dan, to answer your question. I think for two huge reasons. One, genetics. You're predisposed to be a freakish athlete. Mm-hmm. Two, from the second you're a little lad, you're watching film. You go to the locker room. You know what it's like to be a pro.
You grow up in it.
I'll give you an example. Jeremiah Trotter Jr.
I was just going to bring this up.
Can't believe he hasn't been brought up yet, but I know Eagles fans would love to get. And I
don't think he's a guy at 50 or 53.
I don't either. I'm rooting super hard for the kid because I told this last night, so forgive me if you've heard this, but I used to do shows on Sundays with Jeremiah Trotter back in the day, senior. Okay, we would both bring our sons in. They're the same age. They're both seniors. And
is your son in the draft?
He is not.
Not in the draft.
No.
Okay.
But they would. They'd go and play in another room and we'd be doing the show. And he would show me, highlights of it. And I'm like, oh my God, this kid's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
But he would also say, dude, I've had him breaking down film since he was 4, him and his brother. I'm like, okay, that's a huge advantage.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, again, with the Jerry Rice thing, I mean, and obviously the same with Trotter since they play the same position.
Yeah.
Just the information that Jeremiah Trotter Jr. can get. Think about even once he's drafted, going home, watching games with Jeremiah Trotter Jr. I mean,
the advice.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. I think it's a massive advantage. I get your point about the pressure of it, but I think going into tonight, Brendan, he's probably not a option at 50 or 53. But I think if I'm the Eagles and I'm scouting Brendan Rice, I view it as an absolute positive for him that Jerry Rice is his dad.
I agree.
It also depends who your dad is. I mean, that could impact it too.
That could hurt you too.
If you have, a pretty loudmouth, egotistical dad and not the greatest relationship.
Who's burned a lot of bridges.
Who's burned a lot of bridges. Or, football isn't your thing and you were forced into it because you're watching all this film. I know, I agree, generally an advantage. Just it's so weird to me because to your point, I'm sure, your son isn't getting drafted this weekend. Right. And I'm sure Jeremiah Trotter Jr., they're the same age, but it's 3 times the size of him now. Correct. Like, it's so weird to think like that guy's the same age. And now I'm at the age where like I'm older than every single guy getting drafted and I can't even wrap my mind around it. Well,
I think for the first time in my career, I'm going to be older than everyone in the locker room.
Wow.
It's never happened for me. Yeah.
So that's a big moment.
Shout out to Jason Kelsey, finally.
So you officially old enough to call them all kid?
Yeah, I might have to.
Do you son them? Do you ever son them?
I did refer to one of them as like a kid in casual conversation before, and I thought, wow, I really am.
Yeah,
I said something like, these kids are so young when they come in.
Yes.
Like
you and BG.
Yeah,
what's the age difference there? Like pretty close?
Oh, good point. I didn't think about
BG might have you.
So I'm 36. I'll be 37 in November. What's he?
I think you're right. I think he's
right
36.
around there. Yeah.
I'm going to say he's 36. I'm going to say you two are
you have
right.
To pull up the
it.
birthdays
while you look it up. So the Falcons have taken defensive lineman out of Clemson. One of your favorites, Elliot, name wise, Ruke Uhuro.
Not too upset they didn't draft him.
Yes.
But yeah. No, I mean, defensive tackle, right? You said
that's correct.
So this could be a run on him. I don't believe Johnny Newton's been drafted yet out in Illinois.
He hasn't.
I really like him. Apparently, the league clearly doesn't feel as strongly. But defensive tackle, as we discussed, is a need. The young talent on this team, Jalen Carter had a really good year last year. It definitely fell off a bit as everyone else did at the end of the season.
Yep.
But his life is going to be much tougher next year than it was last year for a number of reasons. One, teams are ready for him.
Oh,
he's
the guy you're gunning.
He's probably the only guy on the defense. Bryce Huff to an extent, but he's the guy you're gunning for. 2, the edge rushers are not as good as they were last year with the loss of Hassan Reddick. So you can key in on Jalen Carter more. But also, no team is going to double team Jordan Davis on passing down.
No,
Jalen Carter is going to get double.
Show you,
yes.
And unless he's the thing with again, he drives you crazy because he did actually start the year off well, and he impacted the quarterback early, and then that just went away. But yeah, until proven otherwise, he's going to get the singles, and Jalen Carter's going to get the doubles. All right. So the Commanders pick is in, and we will update you on that, and then we will have New England on the clock. We're moving pretty quickly here. We're up to 37. And the Eagles are 50th overall. So, and that's all in less than a half hour. So it's going pretty quickly here thus far.
And they didn't even start on time.
That's
a few minutes back. Yeah.
All right. So we'll update you on those when we come back. We can continue. We're going to take a quick time out. You want to jump in on the Sixers as well. We got a lot in store for you between now and then we'll have leading off a little bit later with the Phillies taking on the Padres on the West Coast. But with the Phillies later start date gives us a perfect opportunity to go, real time here with the second round, and we'll talk about it. Elliot, Rob, WIP Sports Time is 7:31.
Go Birds Radio. Listen Saturdays 1 to 3 only on Sports Radio 94 WIP. Presented by Bet Parks Casino and Sportsbook app, official sportsbook of the real Philly fan.
Are you tired of dealing with those old, inefficient windows in your house? Well, maybe it's time to go Guida. How about that drafty, beat-up-looking entry door you've painted over more times than you can count? Well, go Guida. Need added protection from the elements with a new storm door? Go Guida. And what about that sliding patio door or garage door you've been meaning to replace? Go Guida. Whatever your home improvement needs are, I suggest you go Guida with the great people at Guida Door and Window. To help you get your project started, Guida is offering 20% off all windows and doors while allowing you to start your project with no money down and up to 3 full years to pay it off interest-free. That's right. Receive 20% instant savings with the luxury of paying off your project interest-free for up to 36 months. Restrictions apply, offers for a limited time, so what are you waiting for? It's time you finally go Guida. Call today to schedule a free in-home estimate at 1-877-GO-GUIDA or visit them at GoGuida.com. That's go, GUIDA.com.
I'm Ryan Radke with NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network. Quarterback and offense ruled night one of the NFL draft. A record-tying 6 quarterbacks were taken in the first round. Caleb Williams went number 1 overall to Chicago, with Jaden Daniels going second to Washington, and the Patriots taking Drake May at 3. The Atlanta Falcons had the most surprising pick, taking Michael Penix at number 8. The Vikings took J.J. McCarthy at 10, and Bo Nix was selected 12th by Denver. 7 wide receivers, 9 offensive linemen, and 1 tight end came off the board, making it a record 23 offensive players selected in the first round, including each of the first 14 picks, also a first-round record. 9 defensive players were taken on night 1, led by Leatu Latu, who was taken by the Indianapolis Colts at 15. The first defensive back didn't come off the board until Quinyon Mitchell went to Philadelphia at 22. He was one of just 3 DBs selected. Night 2 of the NFL Draft kicks off tonight in Detroit. The Buffalo Bills are on the clock with pick 33. This has been NFL Network Now on the Westwood One.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at getethos.com. That's getethos.com.
It's time for the 2024 NFL Draft. NFLshop.com has everything you need to welcome the newest class of rookies with the largest assortment of officially licensed draft gear for all 32 teams. Shop official New Era draft caps, draft t-shirts, jerseys, and more. Get ready to rep the newest members of your team for the 2024 season with an unbeatable selection of gear to showcase your team pride and style. To shop now, go to NFLshop.com.
Oh, I just watched this do-it-yourself repair video. I'll have our heating and cooling system fixed.
What? Wait.
I'm going to save us a bunch of money by repairing our cooling system.
Yeah, so thoughtful. You should relax. I'll call the experts.
Huh?
For a limited time, we can get up to a $2,100 rebate on a qualified Carrier home comfort system.
Yeah, that's a much better idea.
I know. Now, go watch your basketball thingy.
What?
Visit NoPayCarrier.com to learn about financing options and to find your local expert. NoPayCarrier.com. Carrier, turn to the experts.
Don't miss the annual Bear Affair Gala on May 2nd at the iconic Lincoln Financial Field. Celebrate the mission of Philadelphia Children's Alliance and join them in the fight against child sex abuse. Get your tickets today at bearaffair.org. Philadelphia Children's Alliance believes that all kids deserve to be kids. Abuse occurs in every neighborhood in our city, and the Children's Alliance does everything they can to stop it. From child-sensitive interviews to therapy, medical exams, prevention, education, and more, all of their services are at no cost to families and our community. Get your tickets today at bearaffair.org.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson. Are you over the age of 60 and been diagnosed with lung cancer? If so, you and your family may qualify for a cash award. We can help make sure that you and your family are financially safe and medical expenses are covered. If you've been diagnosed with lung cancer and are over 60, call 24/7, 1-855-972-0213, 1-855-972-0213. Attorney advertising. William Steppacker Jr. is the attorney responsible for this ad. Main office, Granton, Pennsylvania. May not be available in all states.
Spring is in the air, and so are dust, pollen, and dander. Before you turn on your AC system, make sure you schedule a Horizon Services spring tune-up to avoid costly breakdowns and clear away allergens that have been building up since last year. Plus, right now when you schedule a spring AC tune-up, we'll also schedule a free fall heater tune-up. Book today at horizonservices.com/radio. For anything cooling or plumbing, you can trust Horizon to get it done and get it done right the first time.
I'm still going for it, even with higher stroke risk from atrial fibrillation and a regular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Over a 3-year study, Eliquis apixaban tablets reduced stroke risk better than warfarin, and over 97% of Eliquis patients did not experience a stroke. A first stroke occurred in 2.9% of warfarin patients versus 2.3% of Eliquis patients.
Don't stop taking prescription Eliquis without asking your doctor. It may increase your stroke risk. Eliquis can cause serious and in rare cases fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or take longer for bleeding to stop. A spinal injection while on Eliquis increases risk of blood clots, which may cause paralysis, the inability to move. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding, unusual bruising, or tingling, numbness, or muscle weakness. Medications such as aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners may increase bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about all planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
This is the 94 WIP Draft Show, Part 2.
Elliot, I got some bad news for you, man.
Uh-oh.
Your guy was taken. Not only was he taken, he was taken in division. The Washington Commanders take your guy. How do you say his first name? Jerzon?
So I think it's Johnny Newton is what they call him.
Johnny Newton.
Yes.
It's spelled J-E-R hyphen, well, not a hyphen, apostrophe.
Yeah, the hyphen.
Z-H. Yeah, no, you're a hyphen
Right.
guy. Z-H-A-N. So he's a defensive tackle out of Illinois that you liked a lot. He goes 36th overall to the Commanders.
Good thing the Eagles got a guard last night, right? Yeah. I mean, this
Patriots
guy
on the clock, by the way.
I think Newton is a great pass rusher. I don't think he was as good as Byron Murphy, and obviously that bears itself out with how the draft has gone. But in terms of just impacting the quarterback, Newton does an outstanding job. And Washington has a lot of good interior guys. And I will say that
Their line is
yeah. I mean, if you
strong.
look at this division, New York has a good interior with Dexter Lawrence. Now Washington adds Newton, already had a good interior.
Yep.
Dallas is okay. I mean, their pass rush overall is good. So, yeah, I mean, the interior of the offensive line, it got harder for the Eagles next year.
Yeah, no question about that. So, again, all right, now we have the pick for the Patriots. They went wide receiver. Jalen Polk, wide receiver out of Washington. So they team him up with Drake May. So they get him a little help there.
Yeah, good to get your quarterback help. I don't really think this was an Eagles guy. I mean, again, not a super speedy guy, more of a 50-50 ball. Does have the ability to play the inside, which is important. So I don't think he was ever going to be an Eagles option there at 50 or 53.
Titans on the clock at 38. So we are, I think we're going to get this in the next hour. I would
the
say,
way this is moving. Yeah,
sure.
Well, let me ask you
Eagles
this.
at
Are there any guys there? I don't know if you have your big board out, but any guys there as we kind of inch towards it, obviously 50. So they're at 37 now, 13 more picks to go again at 53 that you would consider moving up for.
There's two guys. Oh, moving up for.
Up for. So, I mean,
yes,
somewhat consider you would.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's talk about that because I don't like Cooper as much as other people.
I like him.
In the second round, I think he makes more sense. My concern with Cooper DeJean is he doesn't.
No, Edgerrin Cooper.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Edgerrin Cooper, I agree.
Yeah.
And if I'm moving up for him, I almost think I would prefer Cooper, but if I'm staying at 50, as weird as it sounds, I would then prefer Peyton Wilson. It feels like less of an investment considering how their careers could go.
Right.
But Howie moving up for a linebacker today will certainly make the people happy.
Well, it's just, again, it would be another thing where you're saying, this does not happen. In what universe does this happen? And it's could be happening here.
But I view it as a positive that Howie's gone out of character a little bit.
Let's talk about that because I do too.
Yeah.
I was talking to Tom Kelly about this last night, and we were on opposite sides of it. Tom said,
Shocker.
He said it sort of reeks of, he didn't use the word desperation. He said basically, an overreaction. And I don't think so. I think, adapt or die. Like you have to sort. Yes, you have your core principles that you believe in, and that's life, whatever. But you have to be willing to get out of your comfort zone sometimes. And this offseason has felt like out of a comfort zone, and I'm glad for it.
Yeah, so I do believe that the needs were at positions he doesn't normally invest in. The running back position was not good enough last year. I know DeAndre Swift, he made the Pro Bowl, right?
Yes, he did. No, he did.
I don't think he was a Pro Bowl running back last year. I think he had 3 or 4 games where he was outstanding. Outside of that, I thought he's a little inconsistent. I thought he had big holes to work with on the offensive line and didn't make enough with them once the contact got there. So you had to add a running back. In terms of the safeties, going back to Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, I know you see 3 years, $33 million. He didn't pay him a ton of money, though. It was really 1 year, $10 million.
Yeah, the per year is pretty fair.
Yeah, it's not that bad. So I just think at the positions he had to make moves at, they were positions he's neglected for a few years, and that's why he had to go out of character to address them.
Yeah, and the thing is, look, there's no denying they have had issues with certain positions. Corner's one of them. I mean, where they. It's why you end up with having to trade for Slay, having to sign Bradbury, et cetera.
Yeah,
because you missed a few.
They have done a good job, though, piecing it together to an extent. Again, last year, it fell apart for everybody. Offense, defense, it fell apart.
Yeah.
But the corners that they almost won the Super Bowl with, and we can debate how good the defense was in that game, but whatever, they made the Super Bowl with them. Slay, they traded a third for. Bradbury, they signed as a free agent. Maddox, I think, was a 4th-round pick, if I'm not mistaken. So they have done a good job piecing it together. The last time they went to Super Bowl, or the time before, 2017, Jalen Mills was a 7th-round pick. Darby, they acquired for what? Was it a 3rd? And Jordan Matthews? Yeah. In training camp. Patrick Robinson, they signed as a free agent. and this is another reason why to circle this all the way back
Pass
to
rush,
Quinyon
man.
Mitchell. Well, I was going to say, I just don't know if you still need to invest first-round picks in cornerbacks anymore.
Maybe. I think a lot of it is contingent. Like, if you're just talking 22 and 17, both of those teams got after the quarterback at a crazy level.
Yep.
And if you don't have that, which I don't know that they may not. See, here's the thing. Do you think Sweat bounces back in a free agent year?
So I'm less optimistic about him bouncing back than I am some of the secondary guys, just because I think edge rusher is much more just pure talent as opposed to scheme. There's obviously scheme involved. I really do think Bradbury will bounce back because he will have I think more consistent players around him in terms of, CJ, GJ. Now he does miss time, but
Right.
I think safety play should be better. And I think coaching. I really think they looked lost as a unit last year.
How much? So let's go. Let's percentage wise, player on the defensive side of the ball.
The Rams have traded up, by the way.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the Rams have made a little move. So
Yeah.
they're now on the clock, or are they? No,
They're about to be. The Panthers were on. Well, so the TV's a little behind, but the teams are starting to trade up.
okay.
The
Titans
Rams
pick
traded
is
up.
in.
Yeah.
We're waiting on that. Okay, so last year, talent on that side of the defensive side of the ball versus the conglomeration of Desai and Patricia. How much of it? I'm talking the depths, the failure, how they fell off. How would you allot that?
So I view on offense the players, on defense, I'm not completely letting the players off the hook, but I view it as coaching. I think on the defensive side of the ball, were they great under Desai? No, but they were closer to great than they were a disaster. Outside of the Dallas and San Francisco game where things just completely cratered.
Yeah.
They were, I thought, a pretty good unit the first, on that 10-1 stretch that they were on.
Mhm.
I think once Patricia took over, it's almost not fair to judge any of the defensive players. Reddick was dropping into coverage more. They had miscommunication errors all the time in the secondary. That impacted how some of the corners looked. On the defense, I think it's coaching. On offense, I truly believe this was player execution. I think the offensive line messed up signals. I think Jalen made poor decisions in the pocket. There were turnovers. There were fumbles. Not letting the coaches off the hook there either. They needed to be better. But I saw an offense that there were plays to be made and that the player breakdown is why it fell apart.
Do you think they had misgivings from the jump about Desai? And if so, why was
they
he
must
hired?
have? Because talk about being out of character. I don't think Lurie's ever fired a coordinator in his first season, let alone in season. I mean, he fired Castillo in season. That was Andy way back in the day.
Yeah, but that was such a reach by Andy.
Yeah.
That he couldn't have been shocked by.
Yeah, I think if you're firing somebody halfway through the year, your concerns about him have to start way sooner than even week one.
I agree.
Like it has to be like from almost the second you hire him, the meetings aren't going well or whatever it is. I don't think you make that type of rash decision in season if you don't have your questions for a while.
All right, tell me if this is what I heard. I heard two things. Well, okay, so
yeah, Devondre Sweat, the
he ends
Texas
up going
defensive
to
tackle.
Titans. Yeah.
Is going to the Titans. Yeah,
Okay.
I believe the brother of Josh Sweat, by the way.
Yeah, big. Oof, he is a big man.
Yep.
Holy smokes. All right. So the defensive tackle goes number 38 overall to the Titans. Okay, the Rams are on the clock with the trade. I had heard Desai incredibly inflexible, stubborn to the point where it wasn't just belief in a system, like unwilling. And then the Patricia thing, they didn't think he was going to try to remake it to the extreme that he did.
Right.
And therein lies two of your issues with both
Yeah,
of
so
those
I
guys.
do the same thing I had heard about Patricia where they didn't think he was going to go in and overhaul it as much. And look, the players talked about it.
Yeah.
It's about almost learning a new defense on the fly at the worst
BG
possible.
talked about it, and he's the most positive guy
Sweat
there
did.
is.
I
Yeah.
believe Slade did as well. In terms of saying just how hard it was on the fly to do that. So yeah, I mean, but again, that comes down to Nick, Jeffrey, and Howie. If you're talking to Patricia about taking over, I mean, I guess maybe once you have that conversation, you have to do it. But then you got to be clear.
Yeah.
If you're taking this job, this isn't training camp. This isn't OTAs we're running.
This is a tweak.
We have a game in 3 days or whatever it is. So
Seattle.
Yep. And the defense actually wasn't that bad in that game, ironically.
Right.
Until the very end. But yeah, no, I think on the defensive side of the ball, the coaching was the problem.
Yeah, that's the tough part of that is, and again, that falls on them. That's who they chose, man.
Yep.
I mean, when both of the coordinators that I know Brian Johnson was already here. When I say bring in guys that you hired or elevated, whatever, get bounced, man. That's you. That is 100% you.
So I do think one reason to be optimistic next year about Nick, and I know that the town seems pretty split on him. I do believe the coordinators, well, it's not their fault. Nick's the head coach, having inexperienced coordinators really impacted Nick.
Yeah.
I thought this team made a lot of uncharacteristic mistakes last year. While Nick has his strengths and weaknesses as a head coach, I do think a strength of his is his team in general plays good situational football. They don't make dumb mistakes. There's not time management issues. Last year, I mean, Jalen, was it staying inbounds against the Giants?
Yes.
Yeah, doing that. I thought there were a lot of times where Nick, end of game clock management wasn't great. Penalties, pre-snap penalties. I think Nick got stretched a little thin. So to go back to your question about how they feel about Nick, I think they believe the coordinators last year didn't allow Nick to be the best version of himself. And this goes to the question of Kellen Moore. Is Kellen Moore taking over the offense, and has Nick been stripped of all of his power? I don't view it that way.
I don't either.
I view it as Nick, whether forced, whatever, because of how things fell apart with Doug, I think Nick was smart enough to realize, for whoever gave him the advice, that they needed fresh ideas.
Yeah.
And Kellen Moore is going to bring that. But inside the building, I don't think Nick is viewed as, powerless, or Kellen Moore is the head coach or anything like that. I think you're going to see a lot of the influence of Nick's offense and Kellen Moore's offense.
I just don't subscribe to, well, what's he do? Well, guess what?
100%.
If you're a head coach, man, you do a lot. And does that same thing?
Hold on. The Eagles are on the clock,
They moved
according to Ian Rappaport.
Okay. All right. So let's real quick update where we are here. Okay. The Eagles have traded up to number 40 with the Commanders.
Big jump. And with the Commanders, interesting there. That's in division trade.
So what just went in front of the Eagles was two defensive tackles. Devondre Sweat.
Yep. So goes a run on defensive tackle.
Yeah, he goes to the Titans, and then Braden Fisk, the defensive tackle out of Florida State. So right now the Eagles are sitting on the clock at 40 with a lot of
good players available. Now I'm looking at the defensive tackles available. Mason Smith out of LSU, Chris Jenkins out of Michigan. Chris Jenkins, more of a run-stopping defensive tackle. Mason Smith, ultra-athletic guy. I believe a little still raw in his game. Overall, looking at the big board, there is Cooper DeJean still. Now, if they were to take him, I think that would be viewed as a safety and not as much as a corner. I just don't think there's room for him anymore unless you think that he's going to be able to play nickel. So maybe Cooper DeJean is someone they would move up for. Again, the linebackers still on the board.
Can you imagine if they took these two defensive backs?
It would not be the bad week of Bradbury and Slay for Slay would continue.
Yes. All right. So let's not bury this. So the Eagles have moved up from 50 to 40. They traded with the Commanders. So they're on the clock right now. Actually, the pick's in.
Here we go.
So we're gonna find out what they end up doing. But you knew Howie couldn't sit still.
Nope. Has it said what it took to get up there? I mean, I would think you're looking at probably not both second-round picks, but
yeah, that's a pretty significant move.
That's a big-time jump. I mean, they don't have a third-round pick, so
they don't.
All right. I mean,
Cooper DeJean.
Whoa, unbelievable.
Man. Whoa.
So, yeah,
I like Cooper DeJean. I do. Look, here's what you get with him. Iowa. He is a guy who has the versatility to play both corner and safety. He's an incredible return man. Got hurt in the last game of the season, and for a lot of people's, bank, it's the only reason he lasted until the second round.
Yeah.
But Elliot, two defensive backs, first two picks in the 2024 draft.
I mean, they're remaking the secondary. So looking at Cooper, how I think they could use him. And we were talking about him earlier. Here's what I like and don't like about Cooper DeJean. On one hand, I like that first of all, he's a great athlete. He's a hard hitter. He's a great tackler. He's dangerous with the ball in his hands. When he makes plays, like when he intercepts passes, he returns them for touchdowns.
Yes.
What I don't like about this pick, what is he great at? Where are they going to put him? So maybe, is he only an outside corner? Do they view him as being maybe a Chauncey Gardner-Johnson type of player where they're moving him all around? Is he going to play nickel?
I think he's your nickel corner.
But the nickel corner at 40, I don't know. I mean, maybe.
That's what I think. Well, what you're saying, that's not value?
I don't think a nickel corner at 40 is great value. I think, look, if he's playing every snap, I guess it is basically a starter. Yeah, that's a good point. In today's NFL, you're right. That's basically a starter. So we'll see what they gave up. I don't know if that is.
You want to get a little draft profile of him?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Cooper DeJean, defensive back, Iowa.
Second down 10. They're going to come back there. You can bet on it. Now they go to the underneath man, and Cooper picks it off. Cooper, DeJean heading for pay dirt. Has one man to beat, down inside the 5 at the 4-yard line.
A consensus All-American, Cooper DeJean is an elite athlete and a versatile defender. He's an instinctive player that always seems to be one step ahead of the offense. DeJean has the ability to play either man or zone and is also an asset in run defense. Scouts are divided on his best fit, but he has the physical tools to contribute in the NFL as a safety on the outside or as a nickel corner.
All right, so let me hit you with this, Elliot. According to Benjamin Solak, who is a staff writer for The Ringer, I think does a very good job. He's reporting that the Packers at 41 were in love with DeJean.
So they wanted to
and
jump
the Eagles
for him.
read the room and got up and got in front of them, which is very Howie-esque.
Yeah,
for
I mean,
sure.
well, one thing Howie's very good at is collecting information, knowing what other teams are going to do. And again, we were talking about this earlier. Obviously, talent evaluation is a key part of the draft, but as is knowing how to get your guy what it will cost and making the most of that value. So through the first two picks, they go Quinyon, they go Cooper. Ironically, my least two favorite of the corners, but we can get into that another
Saints
day.
just traded up to 41. This thing's getting
A
wild.
run on corners.
Let's get crazy.
Has
Let's
it
get
come
weird.
out what they traded yet?
So, no, I don't see anything official yet on what they ended up
If they
giving up.
traded 50 and 53, I don't think I like this move. That's a lot to give up.
I can't imagine they didn't give up 53 to
Maybe
to,
a future
to jump 10
pick.
spots.
Yeah, but maybe a future pick in another draft or the 4th round pick. Or,
I would assume one of those 5th rounders is thrown in there just for kicks because
Yeah.
you had a lot of 5th rounders.
So they did bring Cooper DeJean into Philadelphia for a draft for a pre-draft visit. They have now, I think, like their last 4 or 5 first and second round picks have come to Philadelphia for a visit. It's something they really, really value. So Cooper DeJean, as I was saying, great size, great athlete, and a legit stud athlete, like
Yeah.
strong, can still move.
If
He
you
ran a
have
great
time,
40.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No, go for it.
Watch his basketball highlights.
Yeah,
in high school.
100%.
Like
Yep.
he's dunking over like bigs.
Yeah.
Like he can leap.
So he can move. Played inside, played outside. Now, the key question with him again is, are they going to use him as a Swiss Army knife type, or do they project him at one spot? So here we go. The Eagles traded 50 and 53 and their 5th round pick for, what was it, 40, and then their 4th round pick.
Okay, so they get a 4th back.
I'm sorry, a 3rd round pick. I misspoke.
So they get a 3rd now.
They get a 3rd.
So they're not done tonight. So they will have another pick tonight.
Correct. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
78.
So that makes sense. So 53 is the enticer, and then you throw one of those 5th rounders in there. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But you still get a 3rd rounder back.
Yes. So
Okay.
you move up 10 spots. I think that's good value. Here comes Brandon Graham announcing the pick.
BG's looking good.
Yeah, got the green on.
That leather, what is that?
It looks like it's sparkling.
Something shiny. Like, so you could pull that off. I could.
Oh, of course. I mean, it's not that much different from what I wore on my wedding day.
Of course. Yeah, so that's interesting. Yeah, 50. So they gave up 50, 53, 161, okay, to get to 40, but they also get 78 back.
Yeah, I think that's a fine trade.
Yeah.
I don't think that's an overpay at all. And while my opinion on Cooper DeJean is what it is, I will always respect Howie going up for his guy. If you think in a draft where there's not a lot of special players, Cooper DeJean, who, by the way, going into the draft, teams at least seemed extremely intrigued by him. He fell out of the 1st round, so obviously that was a bit of smoke there. But this cornerback position now is going to be the one to watch in training camp. As of now, on the roster, Darius Slade, James Bradbury, Avonte Maddox, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Keely Ringo, Eli Ricks, Tyler Hall, Isaiah Rodgers. That's 9 right there. And those are just corners. We're not even, maybe Cooper ends up being a safety.
Yeah.
But you're probably only keeping 5. I mean, there's half those guys. Mekhi Gardner.
Some
corner.
people are going bye-bye.
Yeah. I think it's probably Bradbury.
Yep.
Now the question is Slay.
Is there another trade coming?
So Slay to me would be, I think you have to take him. You have to go into training camp with Slay and see how these young guys play. Cooper DeJean on the screen right now.
Let me give you a little bit on there. 6 foot and about 6 foot and a half ish, or a quarter inch, half inch, 212 pounds, runs a 4.4 240, 38 and a half vertical, which is good. Very impressive numbers, actually, both of those. Posted 12 interceptions and 20 pass breakups in 2 years as a starter at Iowa. That's a lot.
Yeah.
In 2 years.
Yep. So, and again, to him being dangerous with the ball in his hands, he took snaps on offense last year.
Yeah.
Like they tried to get the ball in his hand. You could see it here. Punt returner,
Big
kick
time
returner.
returner. Yeah.
You know, hopefully he advances to the stage where you're not having him do that in his career.
Yeah.
But he right away could be a real impact player for them. I like this pick.
Yeah.
The more I react to it, I think this was a smart pick at 40.
I'm happy with both picks, honestly, man. It's out of the box. It continues to be out of the box. We're as Elliot and I are watching the reaction. He's, they're doing the usual mob by the family thing and all that kind of stuff. And we saw the Eagles war room, how excited they are. But
NFL comparison, Malcolm Jenkins, according to NFL Network.
Okay.
And I can see it. Now, Malcolm
played corner in
Malcolm
college.
started his career, I believe, with the Saints on the outside.
He did.
And that's the positive of Cooper DeJean. Again, when there was talks of trading up to take him at 12, that's different. But in the second round, he is somebody that Vic Fangio can get creative with. One thing, a lot of things they didn't have on the defense, but one thing they definitely didn't have last year on the defense was guys that Sean Desai could get creative with. They've now added Cooper DeJean, who can do a bunch of different things, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who can do a bunch of different things. Pre-snap, offenses are going to have more to deal with in figuring out, okay, CJ, GJ, and Cooper DeJean are on the field. What are they doing? Are they lining up as the corner there? Are they being an in-the-box linebacker type of role? Are they playing a single high safety? Are they going to back up and both be the safeties if Avonte Maddox is on the field? Avonte Maddox is someone that's moved all around. So what you're seeing with what they're doing, I think Quignon's just going to play the outside. But what they're doing is adding a bunch of different pieces that Vic Fangio can get creative with.
All right, let me give you the last 2 years where he really took over as a starter, okay? 2022, second team All Big Ten, tied for the FBS lead with 3 interceptions returned for touchdowns. That's just in 22, okay? He had a good bowl game for them. Started all 13 games, 75 tackles, 3 tackles for losses, 5 picks. Go to 23, which was last year. First team Associated Press All-American, Big Ten Defensive Back of the Year, Return Specialist of the Year, first team All Big Ten Conference, finalist for the Jim Thorpe Award, Bronco Nagurski Award for the top defender. This guy's got some pretty good resume here. Started 10 games. He got hurt at the very end, missed the end of the year with a broken fibula. Lance Zierlin's breakdown here on NFL.com. Highly competitive defensive back, plus ball skills, noteworthy special teams value, is a big and bundled for a corner, muscular arms, tight hips, has fantastic interception production, but his movements tend to be more linear than fluid. Doesn't have the easy change of direction in man coverage. His best football is played with his eyes forward, using his instincts to challenge quarterbacks and his big downhill burst to smack whatever needs smacking. His words. He would seem to be a no-brainer as a punt returner and gunner in year one. DeJean should be a big athletic tester, which will help get the hype train going, but finding the proper scheme will be important in unlocking his best football as a zone corner or interchangeable safety. They like that part of it. Strengths, he can play either. He's explosive, instinctive, tracks passes well, ball skills as a receiver, charges hard, slams into pass catchers, can provide immediate help. Weaknesses, tight hips, struggles to open hips and a lot of hip, to find sudden acceleration against pass release, fails to turn and find the football when traveling in deep routes. Played a series of bad offenses, which challenged him.
Him and Quignon can talk about that.
Below average length, which allows some slippage as a wrap-up tackler. Sources tell us, quote, he's quiet and humble. He was always at his best. He was always the best in high school and has that baked-in confidence that you can't coach, according to an AFC scout. So this guy does not play scared.
So, and I think off last year's secondary, that's a step in the right direction.
Yes.
2 things. A positive. I'll start with a positive.
Yeah.
As a tackler, and he just mentioned there, this team struggled at tackling at corner. Between Quignon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, they become a better tackling secondary.
Yep.
Again, Chauncey, not a great tackler, but Cooper and Quignon are great tacklers.
Mm-hmm.
When you were saying in there about his muscles, to me, I don't think he looks like a corner just because he is so strong.
Yeah.
Like he
looks like a safety.
He's much thicker than a lot of corners that we've seen play for the Eagles, and frankly, a lot of the corners that were also available. By the way, another corner taken. So the run on corners, how he read that correctly in terms of going up to do that.
He got DeJean, and then the Saints, who traded up, got Kool-Aid McKinstry.
So how he started the run.
And then, and then Kamari Lassiter, the kid out of Georgia, goes to the Texans. And now we're at 43 with the Cardinals on the clock.
So now the next time they'll be on the clock is 78. Do I have that correct?
Yes.
I believe so. Yeah. So they have that 3rd round pick now. Look, I mean, Vic Fangio has to be a happy guy so far. I like Keely Ringo. Again, I like Keely Ringo. I like Eli Ricks. They are giving a lot of defensive players for Vic to work with.
They are.
And to develop. I mean, that's key.
Let's get a quickie in. So we know now Howie was not going to sit still.
Yes.
In the first round and the second round, he trades up from 50 to 40. They got rid of one of their second rounders, but they now do have a 3rd rounder, but they take Cooper DeJean. We're not sure exactly if he's going to be a corner or a safety, but most project him right now, at least, as a cornerback at the NFL level, maybe a nickel corner. but he's also a return man and a gunner as well, can do a lot of different things. They've gone back-to-back defensive backs here with the first 2 picks in the 2024 draft. You want to react, 215-592-9494. More on DeJean when we get back and what's happening elsewhere around the Eagles. We will do all of that. Eliot Shorr-Parks, Rob Ellis on this draft in-house. WIP Sports Time is 8:02.
Every business faces challenges, but complicated, expensive, and uncertain shipping shouldn't be one of them. With USPS Ground Advantage from the United States Postal Service, you can avoid all the noise. No more unexpected surcharges, hidden fees, or complex rate structures. It's just easy, cost-effective, and dependable shipping. Tune your business's frequency to success and turn shipping to your advantage. Learn how at USPS.com/advantage. USPS Ground Advantage. Simple, affordable, reliable.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential, but finding those people can be a major hassle unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze. ZipRecruiter's advanced technology identifies candidates with the right skills, sends you great matches, then you can easily invite them to apply. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. See for yourself. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/free to try ZipRecruiter for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Safe Auto Insurance is now Direct Auto Insurance. What's the difference? Basically, the name. Direct Auto offers savings of up to 25% on state minimum coverage, just like you're used to, which means you never have to make trade-offs when it comes to paying for car insurance. So don't even think about carpooling to work with Talkative Ted. It's time to stop compromising and keep driving with Direct Auto. Get a free quote at directauto.com or call 1-877-GO-DIRECT. Savings vary. Terms apply. National General Group, Winston-Salem.
Right now, save up to 20% off any new vehicle in stock only at Colonial Hyundai. Shop us online 24/7 at colonialhyundai.com. Colonial Hyundai, the faster, easier, better way to buy a Hyundai.
Now serving Bucks and Montgomery counties. 267-650-3418.
Hey, Philly. Jason Kelsey here. Even though I won't be playing on Sundays anymore, you can still find me at Lincoln Financial Field on Saturday, May 18th for the Eagles Autism Challenge, presented by Lincoln Financial Group. This event raises millions of dollars to support autism research and care and gives you the chance to walk, run, or ride your bike beside your favorite Eagles players. Together, we can transform the lives of individuals affected by autism. Register today at eaglesautismchallenge.org, and I'll see you there.
April is here, and if your windows won't open for fresh air or seal tight to keep out pollen and bugs, then talk to Window Nation. Right now, for every 2 windows you buy, you'll get 2 free. There's no limit to how much you can save. Plus, save even more with no interest or payments for 24 months. With proven quality, you'll get affordable windows that meet or beat the national brands. Don't miss out. Call 866-90NATION or visit windownation.com to schedule your free in-home estimate.
Experience the difference an exceptionally priced Acura can make at Elite Acura, home of the Elite Advantage on Route 73 North in Maple Shade, online at EliteAcura.com.
I'm John Morgan. When you call Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm, your very own army springs into action immediately, 24/7. Our investigators, legal staff, and over 900 lawyers work together to fight to get you the best result as quickly and easily as possible. Insurance companies know who we are, and now you know it too. This firm was built for greatness. This firm was built for you. Injured? Call your army. We're ready to roll. Morgan & Morgan. Visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
Cheerleaders Philadelphia presents the beautiful Rochelle Ryan. Rochelle Ryan for 2 amazing nights, tonight and tomorrow night. You don't want to miss this brunette beauty when she takes the main stage. That's Rochelle Ryan at Cheerleaders tonight and tomorrow. The newly renovated Cheerleaders has the sexiest entertainers performing live on stage from noon until 2 a.m. Special overtime hours Friday and Saturday nights. Cheerleaders is open until 4 a.m. This weekend's overtime DJs are DJ Bausch and DJ Leverage.
The Grand Slam jackpot with BetMGM. Score a $50,000 bonus bet jackpot when a player you bet on to hit a homer slugs a Grand Slam. Simply head over to BetMGM and place a home run prop bet for any of this weekend's games. If the player you bet on goes yard with the bases loaded, you'll win a share of $50,000 in bonus bets on top of your wager. Take advantage of great home run odds, new ways to enjoy all 9 innings with more same-game parlay options, and exclusive signature bets found nowhere else. Log on to BetMGM or create your account to place a bet on a player to knock one over the fence this weekend. If they hit a grand slam, you'll win a share of $50,000 in bonus bets. Swing for the Grand Slam jackpot this season with BetMGM, official sports betting partner of the MLB. BetMGM and GameSense remind you to play responsibly.
See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. New Jersey and Pennsylvania only. New and existing customer offer subject to qualification and eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days. You or someone you know has a gambling problem. Help is available. Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Join us at Odyssey as we all do our one thing, together millions of things, for our planet. Earth Day has passed, but you don't need a holiday to make an impact. Check your car's trunk and remove heavy items to improve gas mileage. Stock up on reusable bags to use at the grocery store, always keeping a few in your car. And be sure that you are recycling bottles, cans, and papers. The simplest things are often the most effective. When we each share our one thing, it becomes 100 things, 1,000 things, 1,000,000 things for our planet. What's your one thing?
Look around. You can find cars like these on AutoTrader, like that car right in your tail. Or if you're tailgating right now, all those cars doubling as kitchens and living rooms are on AutoTrader too. Are you working out and listening to this ad at the same time? Well, multitasking pro, cars like the ones in the gym parking lot are for sale on AutoTrader. New cars, used cars, electric cars, maybe even flying cars. Okay, no flying cars, but as soon as they get invented, they'll be on AutoTrader. Just you wait. AutoTrader.
94 WIP HD1 Philadelphia from the Tasty Cake Studios. An Odyssey Sports Station. This is the 94 WIP Draft Show on your exclusive home for Eagles football. Sports Radio 94 WIP.
Youngblood, the man in motion. Simon feels the pressure. Hit as he throws. Intercepted. There he is, Cooper DeJean. And he's got some space in front. DeJean still on his feet across the 25. DeJean is going to take it for a pick six.
That's who you got, Birds. That's who you got in the second round. That is Cooper DeJean. If you're just tuning in, so the Eagles make a trade with the Washington Commanders. They go up from 50 to 40. They also receive the 78th pick, which is a pick in the third round, and pick 152. They give up 50, 53, and 161. And with that, they draft Cooper DeJean, who is listed as a corner, could either play the nickel spot, could play safety as well, has a nose for the ball. This was a team, Elliot, that was probably the worst team in football at taking the ball away.
100%.
And they just added a guy who absolutely fits the bill of a playmaker on that side of the ball.
Well, and what I like about this pick that I wouldn't have liked about it if they took him at 22, I don't think he is ready to come to the NFL right now and start on the outside. I don't think his technique is good enough. I don't think he's used to playing press man. I do think in a zone he's better because I think he has good instincts and eyes. But after taking Quinyon Mitchell at 22, there will be less pressure on Cooper DeJean to be an instant impact player. Look at Nolan Smith and Jalen Carter last year. Jalen Carter got all the attention. We've only really started talking about Nolan in the offseason. Most of the year, he kind of flew under the radar.
We acted like he was a fourth-round pick.
Exactly.
Frankly.
I think Cooper DeJean, and this is why draft value matters so much, and this is where I give Howie a lot of credit. At 22, Cooper, I wouldn't have liked the pick. At 40, I think you take a chance on him in the second round. So I think this is a smart move by Howie. I think it's a risk worth taking. I think that for a defense, to what you just said, that needs playmakers, Cooper might not be great at playing lockdown man press coverage, but he is good at finding the football. He's a little like Chauncey in that way. I mean, they compared him to Malcolm. Malcolm, physically, he doesn't remind me of Chauncey. He's much bigger and thicker than Chauncey.
He's got some arms.
But as a player, he reminds me of Chauncey in the way that I don't know if he has a natural home. Like Chauncey can be a really good nickel. He can be pretty good at safety. I think that's what Cooper is going to be in his career. It would surprise me if Cooper became an everyday starting corner for this team, but I think he's somebody that will play a lot of snaps for this team in like a various role on the field.
Interesting tweet from James Palmer. James Palmer, longtime NFL Network guy. He's no longer there, but still is very tuned into things, especially with the Eagles. So he just tweeted out, Elliot, I'm curious what you think about this. My understanding is the Eagles believe Cooper DeJean was probably the best overall football player in that group of the top corners. Situational awareness, tackling, spatial awareness, natural instincts on the field. Is he a true corner on the outside? Most likely not, but there is a plan.
Yeah, see, that's why, again, at 22, I wouldn't have liked the pick. Oh, did Edrin Cooper just go? Yeah,
Yes, he
the,
did.
the Packers took
Yeah, let
it.
me update real quick, and then I'll get your take on what James Palmer had to say. So here's what's happened, because one of the guys you mentioned earlier is well wet. So after the Eagles took Cooper DeJean, right after that at 41, the Saints moved up and took Kool-Aid McKinstry. Then the Texans took Kamari Lassiter. Then this is the guy you mentioned at 43. Arizona takes Max Melton, the corner out of Rutgers.
Yep.
And
so
then,
Howie correctly read the run on corner.
big time run. Yeah, it was 4 straight after
Mhm.
that. Then the guy I really liked, the Raiders took Jackson Powers Booth, the center out of
Yep.
Oregon. But then Edgerrin Cooper goes at 45 overall, the edge, the linebacker out of Texas A&M, and the Carolina Panthers at 46. Their pick is in, and then the Giants are on the clock, and we'll update you on those two in a second. But back to what Palmer said about DeJean. What do you think?
Yeah, so I agree that he's not ready to be a starting outside corner. But again, to reemphasize, with Quinion here, he won't have to be that. Now, in terms of being one of the best football players, that's what I saw when I watched him play. I didn't see a tactician with his, in terms of staying with receivers and press and all that. I just saw him flying around doing stuff. And that reminds me of Chauncey. I think that's why people like Chauncey a lot here, is because he made plays. But snap to snap, when Chauncey was here, he had trouble with, being the correct place in the coverage. He missed tackles. I think there will be some of that with Cooper. But what I think you'll see from Cooper, depending how quickly he gets on the field, is you will know where he's at. And that what I think is so important too. Last year with this Eagles defense, when quarterbacks lined up across from them, who did they have to worry about?
Mm-hmm.
Who did they have to say, okay, let's make sure we know where this guy is?
None.
Hassan Reddick, but you knew where he was going to be, other than unless they foolishly dropped him back.
Yeah.
You knew where the corners were going to be. The linebackers weren't that creative. They didn't have a versatile piece like Chauncey. Now, with Cooper and Chauncey, there will be two guys that you can look at, and the defense is not really going to know what they're going to do. So one thing I think is always under discussed, but is super important, is an extremely valuable thing in the NFL from Sunday to Monday is time.
Yep.
If you have players that coaches need to spend more time scheming against, that takes him away from other things. Obviously, Cooper DeJean right away is not going to be that player. He's a rookie. But he has a potential to be somebody where if I'm an offensive coordinator game planning for the Eagles defense, you sit there and go, okay, we need to spend time and look at where they use him. Where do they line him up on third downs? Where do they put him when they're in this package? And that's time they're taking away from other things they're doing.
Yeah. So just to update you, and this is of note for a reason. I'm bringing this up for a reason. So the Panthers take Jonathan Brooks, who's a running back from Texas. The Cowboys loved him. Jerry Jones mentioned him by name, that he wanted him. So anything where the Cowboys don't get him,
the Cowboys draft. I mean, I like the Guyton that they took yesterday, but he's not someone I think that's going to start right away.
Yeah. So that was the 46th overall with the Giants. Will stay in division. Giants will be on the clock next.
Yeah, I mean, they still need a quarterback. I wonder if this is a Spencer Rattler place potentially. I don't believe he's been drafted yet. That'd be an interesting one. But the Giants you don't have to worry about them this year. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see what
as long as Dimes is the quarterback, you don't have to worry about them.
Yeah. Now, with Cooper out now on the roster, so we were talking about all the corners.
They're young, man.
So here's guys that I believe are locks to make the team. Obviously, Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean will make the team. Keely Ringo, I believe, is a lock to make the team. I think he would have to have a pretty horrendous training camp, and other guys would have to be pretty good for him not to make it, but I think he's going to make the team. So that's 3. Eli Ricks, I don't think is a lock, but I think is closer than many people think.
Special team or 2.
And he's cheap. He lined up all over last year for him, so I think he's pretty close. Isaiah Rodgers, I don't think is a lock to make the roster.
Really?
I think that he's only making $1 million. You have no idea. Look, he had a really good year with the Colts, but he hasn't played football in a year. You don't know what he's going to look like when he comes here.
But Jeffrey Lurie even mentioned him.
I think he's penciled in to the 53, but I don't think he's a lock.
Okay.
Slay and Bradbury. What do you think the chances are that both are on the roster week 1?
I don't think they're both on the roster. I think Slay is movable. You're going to have to cut, and it'll be a post June 1st Bradbury. I think Bradbury's released, and I think they're going to try and potentially move Slay. But here's the only thing, Elliot. If you do that, you are crazy young.
Crazy young. I think they will keep Slay. I believe Slay will.
I do too. I think ultimately Slay's here, Bradbury is.
The only way they wouldn't keep Slay, and even then I think they would, is if Ringo and Quinion Mitchell had such outstanding training camps that you want to get the clock started on them being every down starters. But the issue with that is if someone were to go down, and you're not going to have Slay on the bench, but I think Slay's probably here. Now, financially, let's talk about this. prior to June 1st, you can't really move on from these guys. If you cut or trade them prior to June 1st, with Darius Slay, you take a $22 million, $33 million in dead money and $22 million in lost salary cap space. They're not going to do that. If you trade him after June 1st, you, again, lose $21 million. So Darius Slay is going to be here. That one's happening. James Bradbury, this is where you could potentially save some money. So James Bradbury, if they were to trade him tonight or tomorrow, they would lose $9 million in cap space. So he's going to be here, I would think, at least till June 1st. If you trade him after June 1st, you gain $1 million in cap space. That's not, the $1 million in cap space isn't the big deal. The big deal is the difference between losing 9 and the 1. I think Bradbury,
it's over.
Yeah, I mean, again, he's a veteran, and you're right about being young. I think they want to see him with Vic Fangio. You can't play Bradbury over these guys.
Let me float this theory. You know, you drafted 2 guys, and I know, Quinyon Mitchell being a first rounder is going to get his, but they're both relatively cheap. Does that offset some of the hit you're going to take if you release Bradbury after June 1st?
No,
does it help lighten it a little?
Not really. I mean,
I'm talking about just having bodies at that position.
The issue is that in terms of like the money, Quinyon Mitchell he's going to be cheap for a starting corner. As a backup corner, he's not that cheap. Cooper DeJean, 40th overall pick, his cap hit won't be that big. But ultimately, I just don't think you move on from Bradbury until after June 1st. Okay. I don't see how you can do that.
That makes sense. Yeah. So again, where we are right now, draft-wise, so apparently the picks are in for the Giants and the Jaguars, and that would put the Bengals on the clock at 49. But if you're just tuning in and saying, oh, the Eagles are next, Eagles aren't next. They trade at number 50 for number 40 with Washington, and they end up taking Cooper DeJean, the corner/safety out of Iowa. So that's what they ended up doing.
Are you okay with doubling up, with going Quinyon and then going Cooper?
I am, if you believe in these guys that much. I am.
Yeah,
I am. You want to hear the Brandon Graham pick of this?
Of course,
because he worked in a shot at the Cowboys.
I will say, of all the Eagles to introduce a pick, Brandon has to be, if not Jason Kelce, Brandon is very much up there.
And as we mentioned, had a kick-ass suit on. It was you need to think about that, Elliot.
I might have to. Yeah,
maybe Brazil.
Oh, I already got something planned for Brazil.
Okay.
Don't worry. Yeah.
All right. Here we go with BG making a pick.
What up, though, Detroit? Hey, first off, I want to say, go blue all day, baby. Hey, EAGLES, Eagles. And y'all already know, all day, Dallas sucks all day. With the 40th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Philadelphia Eagles select Cooper DeJean, DB, Iowa. Let's go.
All right, there you go, man. So he said DB. He didn't say corner.
Good point.
Said
Didn't
DJ.
say corner.
But that was great.
They said that last night though, too, right? That's probably what's on the card.
Yeah, that's true.
Still, I think with Cooper, it's a little more noteworthy.
Yeah. So he goes 40th overall, and their first 2 selections thus far, first round and second round, were both defensive backs in a season that in an off season that's been filled with sort of unicornish kind of stuff.
I'll be curious to see where they start him, not in terms of the 11 stars, but where they start him taking reps at. Last year when Howie was last night when Howie was talking about Quinyon Mitchell, he said that as a rookie, you kind of want him to focus on one spot. To your point, he said, this is an outside corner. Cooper is someone I think will be at his best doing multiple things, doing, the Malcolm role. Right. But I wonder as a rookie, if maybe you start him at nickel because he's in the box. I think he's kind of a nickel linebacker safety hybrid.
He can tackle.
He can tackle. I think that at nickel, now there are more quicker nickels than there used to be, but I could picture him matching up with tight ends.
Yeah.
I don't think when we get to OTAs or training camp, I'd be surprised if he's taking outside corner reps, especially based off that tweet you read from, I apologize,
James Palmer.
James Palmer. Yeah.
For longtime NFL Network. So the Giants at 47, they took a safety out of Minnesota, Tyler Nubin, making him the first safety in the draft selected at 47 overall. So
yeah, not a great safety draft. I did like him. I like him in the safety out of Washington, Washington State. Sorry.
Yep.
But not a great safety draft. Again, I think Howie read this right in terms of the run on the defensive backs, though.
Yeah, he got in front of it. There was 4 straight after Cooper.
Yep.
So that was including Cooper. Excuse me. So that's kind of where that is. So what we're waiting on is the Jaguars and the Bengals. Their picks are in, and then Washington would be on the clock at number 50. So again, Eagles at 78. You're waiting
Got a
little
little
while
bit
on
of
this one,
time,
unless
yeah.
Howie moves up again.
Got time to get some dinner before.
You do a couple
78.
cocktails maybe on a
Yeah.
Friday night. Who
Yeah,
knows?
exactly.
Yeah. So it has been a unique offseason to say the least, and the draft thus far has really kind of gone in line with that, with what we've seen so far. But again, signing Saquon Barkley a little bit different than they normally have. They end up trading Hassan Reddick, who a lot of people thought was their best player. They go out and they get a Bryce Huff, who's had one really killer year in the NFL. They bring back CJGJ, and they've taken care of a lot of their own so far, just to mention a few moves.
Does Cooper have to end up on the outside eventually? Not next year, but eventually on the outside for this to be worth the pick? Or is it more about the percentage of snaps he plays?
I think it's percentage of snaps. I really do.
I agree with that.
Yeah. It's impact. Look, you could be a nickel, you could be a safety. If you turn out to be a special teams ace in addition to everything else, they don't, that's a lot. The return game's back.
Well, they do have Covey, who, maybe is getting a little nervous seeing this. He certainly did talk quite a bit this offseason in terms of quotes.
My advice to Britton Covey would be just shush,
and I like Britton. It would just be
I like him too.
my advice.
But he had an excellent year.
He did have an excellent year. The thing I keep coming back to this is with a new defensive coordinator that is better than the coordinators they had last year. I'm excited to see what they do with the pieces they're adding.
Yeah.
I think last year, the defense, especially with Patricia, it looked creative just because no one was where supposed to be. So it's like, what's going on here?
It looked creative because no one was where they were supposed to be.
But in terms of actual creativity, I don't think they were able to do much. Again, in the middle of the season, that's hard to do. With Fangio getting a full offseason of figuring out what to do with Cooper, figuring out what to do with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I mean, Devin White, too, is someone you can get creative with as a linebacker. He's a blitzer, good athlete, only okay in coverage, in zone coverage. He's not great at it, but he can get after the quarterback. So, yeah, a lot of pieces for Fangio to work with.
All right, you want to react? 215-592-9494. Manny in Overbrook. Manny, what do you think about this draft so far?
Hey, I like it. But let me ask you this.
Yep.
Do you think Howie deferred to the scouts, video, or so? Because Howie's not good at picking corners in the second round and picking corners at all. He usually goes after free agents.
I think he welcomes input, but I don't think he's deferring. It's his decision ultimately.
I mean, it depends how you define it, I guess.
Involved.
I don't think the area scout is making the pick, but a lot of the information how he works with comes from the scout. So when he makes these picks, he's using information that they have had. So yeah, I mean, Howie, I think definitely takes input, but when it's time to make the pick, it's Howie's decision.
Yeah, okay, but do you think it's being pushed towards these picks? Because like I said, this doesn't sound like Howie picks. I mean, if you look at his past.
Yeah, but I think it's different. I mean, again, they hadn't signed Saquon in a long time, but they needed a running back, and they had a bit of a revolving door at running back. At corner, they've had a bit of a revolving door. The last 2 years, they've had the same starters, but both these starters, I mean, they could be gone before week 1, but they're certainly going to be gone before next year. So going into this offseason, I think Howie had a goal of adding long-term starters. Quinyon Mitchell, again, we can debate the players and the skill of them. They've added 2 pieces in the secondary that they think can be long-term starters. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, young enough to be a long-term starter. Devin White, long-term starter. Saquon, he's a running back, but, he's going to be 2 years, 3 years, whatever. So they've had such revolving doors at those positions. I think that's why it feels out of character that he's committing to guys he can keep. But the good news is next offseason, he won't be having to do this.
But Manny, the out of character stuff didn't just start. This whole offseason's been that way.
Yep.
No, you're right, Rob. You're right, Rob.
Yeah.
You're right. Now, let me ask you this.
Yep.
I think they gave up too much. 2 top 50 or top 60 picks. Could they defer that to next year? Isn't it too much to go up for a 2 this year?
So,
and a 3?
No, it's an interesting question. I think last night in the first round, teams weren't trying to move up as much. Even tonight, you've seen already there's a ton of trades. I think the cost of moving up is expensive. So to your point, if you're Howie, and I'll put you in the spot. If you're Howie, you love Cooper DeJean, you want him, and you have a split-second decision, here's what it's going to cost. I can't blame him for going and getting his guy. I don't know where you fall on it, even if it overpays. But
go ahead, man.
Right. I think it overpays because I would like to see them still have that pick, but defer that second pick to next year.
Yeah,
I just don't know if that would have got it.
Wouldn't have done it. The problem is, Manny, Washington wanted it now in that. Second,
okay.
Yeah, and that's and thanks, Manny, appreciate it, man. I mean, you basically forget 50. You flipped 50 for 40. So you gave
you
up.
move up 10 spots.
Yeah, you gave up 53, and then you still got a third rounder back. You know, that's a cost.
And one thing about this draft too, though, I do think there was probably 20 to 25 players that were intriguing, interesting prospects. And within those 25, there was, 10 or 11 like true elite guys. I don't think Cooper DeJean was one of them. But Cooper was one of the 25 intriguing guys. And so to get him at 40, again, he fell, which I think speaks to something, and that matters and all that. But if you're going to give up 53, I think at least you're getting somebody that you, in theory, could have taken at 22 and people wouldn't have crushed you for it.
He has first round value.
Yeah, he was viewed that way going in. Yep.
Adam in Oxford. Adam, you're on 94 WIP.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
What's up, Adam?
Look, I'm loving this Cooper DeJean. Like you just said, you literally just said, he dropped and maybe that says something. But look at what we got in the first round. All the defensive backs have been dropping.
Yeah.
So how he jumped up got something that I think is going to be our next safety, whatever. That kid is so versatile.
Yeah, I think he'll land at safety long term.
And you know what else is this might land up where like we get that third round pick, and that might be Trotter Jr.
Could be, or that's where you get some offensive line depth. But you're right, it could be. It could be.
Possibly. But I'm just loving this. It's like it's shoring up our secondary. It's kind of like back in like 2004 where it's like we're old, we're moving the line. We paid all our offensive guys, and now the secondary, actually the entire defense.
Yeah, it's a changing of the guard.
Young.
It's Slay and Bradbury in their 30s being ushered out at some point.
And Adam,
maybe not Slay immediately, but it's close.
I'm happy you brought that up.
That gives our window for all the offensive payments where our defense is
going to be cheaper
with a lot of potential.
And I'm happy you brought up the
offense wins in the NFL.
Yeah,
I'm happy you brought up the changing of the guard.
Thanks, Adam.
Because we talked about the personality and the culture of the team. The offense has their personality, for better or worse. Jalen's the leader. AJ, Devontae, Saquon, Dallas, the linemen, like they have oozing personality on that side of the ball. On the defense, before, if we would have done this show 2 nights ago, who's the personality there? Slay?
Yeah.
Jalen Carter? I mean,
Slay in not necessarily a great way, but
yeah,
yes.
The positives and negatives to Slay, I think. Jalen Carter?
Not really.
Yeah, so I think in this draft, I don't know their personalities yet, but Quinyon, Cooper, you go to free agency, Bryce Huff, like these are long-term pieces that need to be the culture setters on defense. Like 2 years from now, we need to talk about this defense and say they take after Quinyon's personality or they take after Bryce Huff. Because on the offense, we know who they take after.
Sure.
We know who the leaders are. I think this offseason they've added guys that in theory should be impact personalities for them.
All right, couple updates. Mason Smith goes to the Jags at 48, D tackle out of LSU. Chris Jenkins, who you mentioned a little bit earlier, Elliot, D tackle out of Michigan, goes to the Bengals. A guy I also like, he was sort of a late bloomer, played receiver early part of his career. Washington with the pick that they got from the Eagles. He's a corner out of Michigan. Mike Sanistil is
he's a nickel guy.
He's a nickel, but he's a hitter.
I like him. I mean, look, played on a great defense. You could argue him versus Cooper. I think that he's more of an instant impact right away guy. Cooper, there's probably a higher ceiling on an impact guy, but I think Sandstro will come in and be an excellent nickel right away.
Good pick by Washington. Brian in Brunswick. Brian, you're on 94 WIP.
Hey guys, good picks. I think this guy, Cooper DeJean, reminds me a little bit. He's got like a Jason Sehorn quality to him. A big guy, corner, safety, can return kicks. Obviously interceptions, can take it to the house. So I think he's got that makeup. But I think they had to address the secondary because the one game that stands out in my mind among many bad ones in the last part of the season was that Seattle game, and you can't have 32-year-old corners chasing 22-year-old receivers.
Yeah, especially
so I think they had to fix that.
Well, they definitely got faster. I think that's a good point, Brian. They were not fast
faster
in the secondary, or really on defense overall. They got slow really quick. Cooper and Quinyon were 2 of the fastest corners in this draft.
Yep.
No doubt, and also Quinyon I think also can tackle. I mean he can tackle. He's got the run game covered. I don't think we were that good. I don't think Slay or Bradbury are very good at that. So all in all, I think the defense has stepped up. But we need Davis to earn his money. We need him to to play, and hopefully White, the linebacker we signed, is going to step up and do what he's got to do, and we get one more year out of BG. But all in all, I think the defense is a lot better tonight than it was 2 nights ago.
Well, certainly thanks, Brian.
A lot more potential.
We know what the emphasis has been so far. Let's get Brian in Churchville. Brian, you're on 94 WIP.
Yeah, it's a great show so far.
What's
Thank
going
you,
on,
Brian?
Brian? Thank you.
Hey, so yeah, when I first heard of the trade, I'm like, oh my gosh, it sounds like they gave up a lot, which I guess they really didn't. And I was not expecting Cooper DeJean there. I was kind of hoping for Cooper.
I wasn't after they took one in the first round, but yeah.
Right, exactly, Rob. So, but yeah, looking at it overall, and if Elliott's right, if the long-term plan is for him to play safety, I'm good with it. He's a playmaker. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I just don't think he has this. I know he's fast. I just don't think he has the makeup to be an outside corner. Now, if he's playing 8 to 10 yards off in this Vic Fangio defense, maybe so. But he doesn't strike me as we need someone to shut down Justin Jefferson. Go put him over there.
Right.
I think Quinyon Mitchell has more of that potential than Cooper does.
Yeah, no, that absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, and I did like the Quinyon, and look, I'm not going to act like I know a ton about him. I've seen a little tape and stuff, but it seemed like that was a good pick. But but yeah, you guys talked about it. The shift in Howie's mindset with these picks it's kind of stunning, actually.
Yeah, it's definitely the whole offseason has been a change of course to an extent. I know that they'll deny it to a degree, and they'll talk about how they've had running backs in here and they've prioritized it in different ways, corner. But it is definitely a change for sure.
Yeah. There's no getting around it. So, and I'm hoping, I think it's pick 78 or whatever. I would still love to see, and I'm glad they really need to fix the defense without question. So, man, if they could get if Trot Jr.'s there, and I know the name is the name, it is what it is, but I would still love to see, because you love Nakobe, but man, he's a serious question mark.
Yeah, I think the big Brian. Thanks, bud. I
would love Peyton Willis at 78.
I would too. The only thing with Trot Jr. is he's on the smaller side. They already have Nakobe Dean here, who's smaller. So
But to flip that, I would say that they did draft Nakobe. So while he reminds me a lot of Nakobe, they did draft him. And Nakobe is now at this point as injury prone.
Yep.
I mean, if you like the makeup of Nakobe, then you would like a younger, less injury prone Trotter.
Fair enough. All right, Elliot, this was fun, man.
Outstanding stuff.
Awesome.
Enjoyed it.
I appreciate it, man. So you'll be back tomorrow at 1?
Yeah, go Birds 1 to 3 with James.
All right, beautiful, man. So check out Elliot there. I'm sticking around. I got you for leading off. I'm going to get you set for the Phillies and the Padres. Game 1 on the West Coast. We will cover it. We'll look back at yesterday and look ahead to this entire series. I'm Rob Ellis. WIP Sports Time is 8:34.
Phillies baseball tonight. Phillies.